Hi, I'm Brett. Today we've got a video update for you on the latest model Subaru released here in Australia, and it's the middle of 2016, and behind me is the Forester TS. Some people call it the Forester STI, but it's actually not a specific STI model, but it's the TS model which is released here in Australia with a range of STI upgrades to make it a little bit more unique and a little bit different to the normal Forester XT. And for some time now, we've seen the Forester XT model available in Australia with the CVT transmission, and it's a more of a mum and dad type car now. A lot of people wish they could get it with the manual transmission, but it's not available with the manual transmission. This particular model car still comes with a CVT. It doesn't come at any possible way with the manual transmission in Australia, but what it does do, it bridges the gap for people to have a bit more of a sporty type of model to enjoy, as opposed to the mainstream model that's been available now since 2013, when this model first came out with the new 2-litre DIT direct injection technology engine. So what I'm going to talk about today is some of the suspension upgrades that are available for this car. And this particular car has been supplied to us by a dealer. It actually belongs to one of the owners of a local Subaru dealer here in Sydney, and every now and then he gets his upgraded company cars modified by us, and this particular car is one of those examples. So what we'll do is I'm going to upgrade and explain to you what we're doing with the suspension, and then we'll come back later, do another video about the mechanical performance upgrades, and then we'll do another video talking about the overall car itself. So beside me at the bottom here, you can see we've removed the suspension out. We're actually in the middle of modifying the exhaust as well, but let's just talk about the suspension. This particular model car comes with the KYB STI optional shocks with STI springs. This is the front shock absorber, which is a McPherson shock absorber, and you can see, being a McPherson shock absorber, it has a guiding function, meaning the bottom of the shock controls the location of the lower control arm, and then the top of the shock with the strut top is connected to the body. The rear shock absorber is not a McPherson strut, it's not a Chapman strut, which is the rear version of a McPherson strut. It is specifically just a coil-over shock absorber, meaning it is connected to the suspension at the bottom, connected to the body at the top, with the shock absorber and the spring in the middle, but it has no guiding function, meaning the rear suspension, when it's all connected in place, is still correctly located by the upper wishbone, the lower control arm, and the lateral link. And that is the big difference on the later model Subarus as opposed to the early model Subarus, because the early model ones had a Chapman strut in their rear end, but the later model ones now have an up and lower link to increase the cabin space as part of the change in the body type. Now, the reason why we're changing these shocks is we're putting, our chosen shock absorber at the moment is the MCA. Now, the MCA shock absorbers are made here in Australia, and there's some other videos that we've spoken about in the past. They're available in 3 ranges of suspension settings as far as the features and benefits, but most notably they come as a direct replacement component for the original factory parts. On the front they have adjustable strut top, which replaces the non-adjustable top on the original factory part, and also you'll notice that it has adjustable damper settings here by turning the knob, as opposed to the original factory ones has no adjustment at all. But also the adjustable strut top allows you to change caster and camber whilst the shock absorber is within the car. And then on the body of the shock absorber, it has the adjustable platform on the main shock body here, and of course the clevis at the bottom, which connects to the bottom of the suspension, is adjustable as well. But we don't recommend changing that, because the way they come from MCA, we have a specific setting that we choose with a good quality spring rate matched to a good quality shock absorber rate, which gives a really good sporty handling feature, good ride quality. It's got a really good bump and rebound settings, and of course the one good thing is you can change the shock absorber settings yourself if you want to make them a little bit stiffer or a little bit softer. And then of course you've got the other advantages, which you can see here. If we just put them side by side, it's a bit hard to hold it, is the difference in the ride height. Now, the reason why we're choosing to fit these on this particular model is the owner of the car wants to lower the car because he's put 20-inch wheels on it, and of course it looks a little bit unusual with 20s sitting at original factory height, and these shock absorbers will allow us to lower the body of the car on the suspension make it sit a little bit lower, and at the same time have a better improvement in handling as well. Now, of course, the same goes for the rear, because of course you typically match as a complete vehicle set, front and rear, and the rear shock absorber, whilst it's got a different mechanical design, still has the same features. So if you look at the top, the original factory one doesn't have any adjustment here. The MCA one does, which is a little bit difficult to get into the back of when you're looking in the back of the Forester, but you can access this part here. And of course, because it's a non-guiding function suspension component, there is no need for any adjustment in the top. So there is no adjustment here because it adds no features or values to the need of the way that's fitted in the back of the car. The bottom part fits in the original factory assembly, and of course it's still got the same ride height adjustment. But the really good thing is when you fit a proper design shock absorber to a car with adjustable features like this, is you don't sacrifice bump and rebound, that is the total suspension travel. Often, as an example, if you just put lowered springs in either the front or rear, you lower the ride height travel of the suspension, and you end up with not a lot of bump suspension travel, meaning that when the car goes over a pothole or something like that, it will bottom out very quickly because you're sacrificing some of the suspension upward travel, but of course you still have lots of downward travel. And depending on the design of the spring, if you're just replacing the spring, sometimes the spring is not fully trapped. So when the suspension is fully extended, as opposed to lifting off the ground as much as possible, you might find the spring is actually loose in the shock absorber suspension component as it's fitted to the base of the shock. So the advantage of putting a set of aftermarket shocks is the spring is normally fully trapped, or in the case of some of the MCAs, they come with a helper spring like the MCA Reds, because they have a different spring rate at the main, and then they'll have a helper spring at the top to keep the spring completely trapped under full suspension travel. So that's some of the features and benefits of what we're talking about suspension. But I wanted to talk about something on this particular car which is becoming a little bit more common on some of the upgraded versions from Subaru, and I've done a bit of research to help you out. And this particular car comes with a range of modifications, and I'll just touch on the mods for the car. STI front spoiler, grille, black roof spoiler, door mirror covers, STI gear knobs, seats with red accents and red stitching, leather steering wheel, STI logo, STI red push button start, STI tuned dampers and coil springs, which you can see here, STI Enki 19-inch wheels, STI towel strut brace, Brembo brakes, which you can see on the car. But the thing that I wanted to talk about the most was the STI flexible draw stiffeners. Now I'll show you in the car just what they are, and then we'll explain to some degree what they work. And you'll see there's a mechanical connection between the body here and this mechanical joint that then runs all the way through to the bottom of the suspension here. And there is one on the left-hand side, and there is one on the right-hand side. And I'll take some still photos on this to link to this video. And then up the front, you'll find there's one on the driver's side here. Similar again, connecting the bottom of the engine cradle to the bottom of the suspension component here. But interestingly, they can't do it on the left-hand side because this is where the exhaust system normally fits, and there is mechanically no room to fit that there because this part here, which is a little bit long, normally sits up in there, and there's no way you can fit the draw stiffener in there. Now, just exactly what does that do? Let me read to you some of the information off the Subaru website. The new flexible draw stiffener rear flexible support rear for this Forester Turbo from STI Technica International is available on the Subaru dealerships throughout Japan from the 14th of January. The flexible draw stiffener rear and flexible support rear are body contact parts for STI's complete car. The Forester TS, which is this particular model, which went on sale on 24th of December, embodies STI DNA for flexible yet elegant driving feel. Pretty typical Japanese English conversion. The flexible draw stiffener links the underside of the floor to the side frame to enhance the following capability of the rear suspension, and thus improves initial response to the steering and stability when turning. With the flexible rear bar in place, a pillow bowl bush, which is, this part is actually a pillow bowl design inside there, is attached to the middle of the support plate that connects the installation points of the subframe and the body, so that unnecessary input is eased and adequate force is transferred to the rear wheels without delay. This results in better response following capability and roll rigidity in the rear, providing both improved handling stability and a more comfortable ride. So what they're trying to say from the STI engineers converting Japanese to English is, by fitting these draw stiffeners, it increases the responsive of the chassis to change of direction without the downside of affecting the ride quality. So that's about as far as I can go from my description. I haven't driven this car yet. Interestingly, these parts are actually an optional upgrade as an STI component on a lot of new models. We've seen them fitted to the BRZ model, for example. Similar front end on the BRZ, you have them on both sides, and we haven't done any testing ourselves, but it's something that's interesting to note that is now an option that has been fitted to the Forester TS. So there you have it. Hopefully some of this information has helped you understand a little bit more about your Subaru Forester model. And final, I'll just show you where the components fit. So we've removed the parts. On this side you can see this is the original fitment of the front coilover and the shock absorber, and on the rear around here you can see how it's originally fitted as per the factory part here as well. Spring, shock absorber, and if you're ever wondering what some of these funny markings and looks like bird poo, this is actually the data dot which is put on by here in the Subaru when the cars are delivered here in Australia. So there you have it. Hopefully that information will help you understand a little bit more about your Subaru. For more technical tips and info, follow us on Facebook, YouTube and Twitter, and we'll do another video update shortly about the performance upgrades and the car as a whole.